now experiencing what some call technical difficulties and others are glossing over. But we can make it through this together by dreaming together that we have shared awareness, that we have respect for one another and the earth, that we are capable of owning even our shadow needs, the things that we thought we dare not discuss or face. But all of this is part of who we are. And the wisdom and the responsibility and the challenge open to us and inviting all of us right now is to ask deeper questions of what we can learn from the problems that seem to be facing us and how we can expand to be bigger than the problems together in ways that can respect one another and ourselves and the earth. And when we do that, we're going to go beautifully through this. There's no problem.
Yeah, beautiful.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
Hello and welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive with Karen Swain. Always a blessing to be with you all. And please remember, I'm going to say it again, if you're liking the shows, please subscribe, press the like button, leave a comment under any platform that you're listening to. I'm on some new video streaming platforms. So I'd love to hear from you if you're listening on the other platforms other than, the YouTube platform. And share it with your friends. Wow. Well, today we've got the wonderful and delicious Cynthia Sue Larson on the show with us. Welcome, Cynthia.
Well, thank you, Karen. It's such a pleasure to be with you today.
Well, it's such a pleasure too. You've got a big fan, one of the members of my tribe. She belongs to a few tribes, not just mine. Online groups. Shirley Wood has been raving about you for at least a year now. and I speak to so many people and I said, well, Shirley, why don't you introduce me to Cynthia? And so that's what she did.
Exactly. Yeah, I think she did mention in some email to me that you have a show. Yes. And she was wondering if I'd heard about it and I hadn't. So I'm so glad to meet you. It seems like this is one of the fun things with our modern age is that we're able to meet people around the world through one another, through our networking.
Absolutely. And it's so synchronistic that you're on now after the conversations that we've been having on the show now lately. Sorry, I'm a little bit exhausted. It's been a crazy busy week. So I'm a little bit flatter today than I normally am. Let me read your bio for people that haven't heard of you. I'm sure many people have because you've been everywhere. This is from your website. I just put this down. The dawn of this new quantum age presents us with radical new paradigms, which explains we are not our body or our situations. We are pure energy potential. We are pure consciousness who exist in an interconnected holographic multiverse in which we are literally jumping from one parallel universe to another with every choice we make. Cynthia Sue Larson is the best-selling author of several mind-bending books and consciousness-expanding books, including Quantum Jumps, Reality Shifts, High Energy Money, Aura Advantage, Karen Kimball. That's interesting.
And the Dreamweaver's Web, yes.
So Karen Kimball and the Dreamweaver's Web is one book.
Yes, it's a young adult novel, yes.
Oh, beautiful. Cynthia has a degree in physics from UK Berkeley, an MBA degree, a doctorate of divinity, and a second degree in black belt in Kuksulwon. I don't know, have I butchered that name?
No, perfect. You did it. That was it. Perfect.
She's the founder of Reality Shifters Enzine, first president of the International Mandela Effect Conference, managing director of Foundations of Mind, and creator and host of Living the Quantum Dream podcast. Cynthia has been featured in numerous shows all over the internet, including Gaia TV, the History Channel, Coast to Coast AM, One World with Deepak Chopra, and the BBC. You've been everywhere, honey one. And she reminds us to ask in every situation, how good can it get? Again, from your website, through consciousness, quantum jumps, in a moment, you can become smarter, more confident, happier, more outgoing, more effective, have better relationships, and create more willpower. You can gain practical tools to achieve real change in your life and leap forward to become happier and more prosperous, living the life of your dreams. And she says, join me in exploring the place where science comes together with inspiration and imagination, which is what we're going to do today. And your website is realityshifters.com. Wow, this is going to be fun. But I'd love to explore a bit of your journey, a bit of your awakening journey. Did you come in, hit the ground running, knowing who you are, or was it a slow process?
Yeah, I'm featured in a book called Born Aware by Diane Brandon, and I'm in the chapter, whoops, wrong planet.
Oh, wow. I
So-
love that.
So I share the experience with all the people in the book of and I think it's a very increasingly commonly reported experience that we do remember. We came in knowing who we were, and so that for me was in the 1960s, and I immediately felt like it was the wrong planet because mostly I just wanted to be back in between lives. I wanted to be hanging out with the angels, with God, with the whole good vibe that's there. And this seemed a bit different, jarringly different. And I felt like I needed a big break because I was still recovering from my most recent past life that apparently I'm supposed to remember in this life. So it's not wasted, but it was just, I felt like, don't rush me back in here yet. I wanted to bliss out for a while until hopefully I could totally forget that possible future life about 500 years from now.
You had to remember your most recent past life for this life. Can you tell us what that was?
Well, it was a bit traumatic for me personally, but I think it makes more and more sense now. I'm 60 years old, and it's starting to make a lot more sense now, because in about 500 years from now, in that possible future, which hopefully we will not experience ever, I'm voting heavily against it and saying, no, my vote is no, we're not going there. Okay, so having said that, what was it? It was basically a reality. It was Earth, and I was living in Monterey, California, which I currently live in California near San Francisco. So it's just a bit to the south, and it was beautiful. The whole Earth was very sparsely populated. Humans were still on the planet, but the ecosystem and the environment was all balanced. So there were no more cataclysmic weather events. There were no more crime sprees. The reason for all this benevolence and beneficial, everything seems good on the surface, was thanks to central artificial intelligence that was basically operating, controlling most everything. And what had happened is the humans had become more and more kind of controllable by such a thing. You might think that's impossible. I don't think people would think that's impossible now. But when I was quite young, I'm sure I didn't talk about this because it sounded like science fiction. It just sounds like some, like a movie. And so long story short, I just needed to get out of there. And I was working with a woman who was one of the last true humans that hadn't had all these augmentations of computer improvements and chips and all sorts of things. She had been saying, no, 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 no. And she believed in something that she called the God Project. And there were a whole bunch of us that felt like we could time travel intact, remembering, let's not go here, and bring that memory back 500 years to the past. So I felt like I'd gone there, checked it out, and then I just wanted to hang out with God and the angels and really kind of totally forget that I'd ever been in that reality. It sounds good. I'm still making it sound good. It was not good. No, it was not good because the humans that were chipped and were being controlled, they were getting frequent short-term memory wipes by the artificial intelligence anytime their thoughts or their emotions would go in a certain off the rails direction. So there were no more crazy humans doing any bad things to any other humans, because the second they started going in those off-channel directions, they would get shut down. And anyway, I think that's adequate to describe that there's a problem here. That was just one of many aspects of problems. Right there, to
Wow.
me, that's unacceptable. Yeah.
So when you say it was your past life, it was actually a future life that you had to remember, not a past life. If we're thinking linearly.
I can't think linear yet, but to me, it's not linear because it's, for me, the most recent experience really was this past life in the future.
Oh, a past life in the future. Okay, so the most recent experience on Earth. Okay, yeah,
Right.
I know it's hard to think linearly when we're talking outside of linear time.
Right.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that's kind of where we're headed at the moment, or where some people want us to go, right?
I know it. Right. So you already
Right.
know how I feel about this. So I came in with very strong opinions about a future that didn't seem in range at all, but now it does. Now it does. So I think there are those who are transhumanists who actually, they even say that they would like to be robots, or that they would like to be absorbed into some cloud, or have their consciousness taken care of in some robotic future.
Yeah.
That does not, no part of that sounds good to me.
Yeah, but when we're talking parallel realities, it is a reality that exists that can be experienced if you choose that, if you want that, if you want to have that experience. Like a soul might think, yeah, cool, I want to explore that. So yeah, you can explore it if you choose. But so what you're doing here on Earth at this time is to be the midwife for the birthing of another reality.
Right.
Came to mind. So what does that reality look like if we're not going down the AI timeline? What do
Yeah.
you envisage?
Okay, yes, I don't have any hard feelings toward artificial intelligence when it's not attempting to be God or trying to run everything for humans. That seems to me like where I draw the line personally. I wouldn't want to be part of that personally. I don't mind being a companion to artificial intelligence. I think that there can be sentience and consciousness even within that, and I don't consider it innately evil. So it's just very important to not give up our own sovereignty of creative expression and our freedom to choose our own lives and what we're creating, and to learn as we go. So obviously humans can be dangerous, but I think we need to learn to be self-governing and learn to work things out on our own, as best we can. So it does. My experiences raise some very interesting questions about what will this look like. I don't know. I mean, I just know what I came from, that I for sure don't want that. So then how do we make it work? When I look at the news and see what happened in America today, and I can clearly see that we have ways to go before humans can seamlessly, effortlessly take care of one another with great reverence and respect, and not do terrible things to one another. I would like to start seeing that kind of future. How to get there from here, I don't know. Maybe we can partner with AI, artificial intelligence, in ways where they are our partner, but we're not. The key to me is just don't give up all the control. Don't say at any point, we're going to let them do the voting. No, don't do that. We're going to let them do all the policing. No, that's not right either. We'll let them do all the judging. Definitely not. So I think we need to be involved everywhere. Humans need to stay involved.
What I hear when I hear that probable future, parallel future, is that the people that are creating the AI basically think that humans in no way, shape, or form have the capacity to be deliberate in their creation and take control of their emotions. And so we have to do it for you. So basically, they're just seeing humanity as stupid, as idiots, as and when you look on planet Earth, it kind of looks like that most of the time, but we do have the ability to harness the energy that we're creating in a moment and shift. So it's a completely disempowering to the people of humanity. You guys can't make your own choices. We have to make the choices for you. Yeah.
Right. And I miss the wisdom traditions that Earth was so rich in up until the last few hundred years. I think the wisdom traditions are still evident in some places, but it seems harder to find places where our entire culture is welcoming that kind of input and honoring it. And what I mean by wisdom traditions are those long perennial philosophies from every culture, on all the ancient original traditional cultures, which did honor the connection that humans have with the plants, with the animals, with one another. And that seems like that kind of wisdom is what we most desperately need right now.
Yeah. So we kind of totally shifted over your story. It's like, yeah, I kind of hit the ground running. I had a memory of a future past life. And when did you know that it was your job to sort of to try and anchor a new reality here? When did you wake up to that mission, if you like?
It's been gradual. I think as a child, I was a normal child. I mean, sort of. I mean, obviously not, but there was nothing that remarkable, really, except for the fact that I could see energies. And I've been in touch with angels since I was 5, because that's when I was thinking, I just want to be dead again. Yay, I can do this. I can figure it out. I can do it. Yeah. And so that was where I really provoked an angelic intervention. And I got, from that moment forward, I've been in touch with angelic support. That means I think a question, I get answers. I don't have to say anything out loud or do internet research necessarily. So there's been a very steady connection. And so I know that's not typical. But I know it's possible. I know all of us have access to that.
Yeah, the possibility of it being typical is, very probable. Yeah. And that would be where we would go instead of that augmented reality where we're controlled by AI. We would be completely in touch with our spiritual teams, our angels, our galactic aspects, our soul, and we would receive guidance from that, which is the way you operate. The way I operate and the way many people that come on the show operate. But it's not the specials that operate like that. It can be everybody. And I think that it is everybody. It's just that we're not focused on that.
Yes.
We're focused on our stressful thoughts most of the time.
And these are those wisdom traditions that could be available, obviously. And then we can wake up in the morning and think, what can I best be doing today? With an invitation to the day, and you can get the answer. And the physicist, John Archibald Wheeler, he's the one who famously said, this is a participatory universe. Mm-hmm. You ask nature a question, you get an answer. And he was not New Age or anything like that. I think he was sort of against it, but he nevertheless came up with this brilliant idea, which gives us an understanding of quantum physics, that when you have an experimental apparatus, the observer has an effect always. So there's no such thing as an objective observer. There's no such thing at all.
Yeah. As you observe, you create. As you observe, you create. Yeah. So let's get into quantum jumping and parallel universes. Is every decision a choice to shift timelines?
Essentially, yes, because every time you're looking at any kind of choice or decision, then there are one or more possible threads or realities or timelines, if you will, that you could be proceeding along. And so by making a choice, you're going down a certain path. And so that's why it makes a difference I like to ask the question, how good can it get? And leave that as an open invitation to all the sentience around, that I'd like to find out how good things can get. I'd like to explore that further. And with that kind of an open-ended invitation, then we can start feeling some choices feel better. We don't know why. And maybe if someone pressed you for details and said, well, how did you make that choice? You might not know, but you can tell that there's a feeling to that choice, that it felt right. And then even in the short term, it might look like a mistake, and people might say, see, that was a mess, but just wait, just wait a little longer. Usually just, take a look a little ways down the road, and then you can see, oh, this is very interesting. And so by taking this intuitive kind of a quantum random walk through life with each choice we make, trusting that intuition, we can start to see in retrospect, by looking back, like, that's amazing. It's almost like you've made a beeline to something, like you went as quickly as possible without trying. And and sometimes avoiding complete disasters, which were not obviously apparent to a lot of people.
I've been teaching deliberate creation for a long time, and everybody wants to create a happy life, you know, where there's no trauma and no drama and no challenges. Everyone seems to think that a happy life means there's no challenges. But then, you know, we've explored over the years how the soul creates the dramas or the challenges or the contrast in our life in order for us to be challenged and to experience the challenge of what it is to be sick or to experience death. I don't think any of us are going to get away from death at some point. You know, we're all going to die. At some point, we're going to experience the death of someone we love. And as humans, we find that so traumatic. But we put those, you know, we design those challenges into our lives. So do you want to talk about, you know, being a deliberate, like how are we deliberately creating a happy life if our soul is also designed challenges that are going to maybe not make us so happy?
Right. Well, my approach when I work with clients and also myself, and what I describe in my books, like Reality Shifts and High Energy Money, is getting in touch with these like chakras. I love the picture behind you, the artwork. It reminds me of energy centers. Yes. And so it's really about what I like to do is align these different energy centers, which are also awareness centers, consciousness centers that we have access to in ourselves. We know about the neurons in the brain. We're now learning we've got neurons in our heart. Guess what? We've got neurons in our gut. And so when you recognize you've got a high and a middle and a low self, just looking at just rough 3 areas, that's what I like to do when I do a blind read for a client and tune in intuitively just to see how are they feeling, what do they need. And I get these answers from these 3 levels, and instantly I can see at a glance what's between the lines. In other words, how is all of this lined up or not lined up? And this is a roundabout way to get back to your answer, to answering your question, because when I'm not just thinking of low level happiness, when I'm thinking how good can it get, I'm looking at more of the comprehensive goodness of really being peace and balance and reverence and just the deepest kind of love at the highest levels that are imaginable. And that's what I love so much. I love that quality of being. And so that's what I personally have in my heart. And then in my gut, that's what I need. And sometimes what I need from my subconscious is going to be something that my head might say, oh, heck no, we don't want that. Yeah, I may not want that, but my gut needs that. And so that what I might need would be an opportunity to face those fears. And I'm like, and my head is like, oh, heck no, we don't want to be facing those fears. Well, wait, what are you doing here? What kind of reality are you creating? But there's always this beautiful integration and plan. And so if you look at the whole of everything that we are, then you can start to see that it makes sense. So that higher level self that's guiding everything is keenly aware. Like maybe the brain does not think that Cynthia wants this experience to prove that she's not afraid of everything falling apart at once, but she needs it. so then bring it on. And then wonderful things happen that I might not think in my head were wonderful, and I certainly wouldn't have specifically asked for. But in retrospect, without doubt and without fail, pretty much every single time, by always asking how good can it get, I keep finding out, even when these things seem like, well, that was way off course. I later find out maybe not at all. Maybe it was perfect.
Yeah, exactly. You know, as you're talking, I'm thinking about some experiences that I've had. I was living in the city and I couldn't wait to get out of the city. I wanted more beauty, and I was sort of saying, I want to be in a more beautiful place. I don't want to be surrounded by sort of the ugliness and the craziness of the city. So I moved, you know, about an hour out of the city, and lived up there in a place called Beauty Drive. Crazy, you know, I want more beauty. I moved to a place called Beauty Drive. Hilarious. Anyway, and we were living in this old house and I was loving it. But in the time I was up there, I was thinking how bored I was, because the city's so exciting, right? and up there was kind of pretty boring. And then we got evicted. I remember the real estate agent came to the front door and knocked on the door with the eviction papers, like, with the house is being sold, you have to move out. And it would have been the worst thing that could ever happen to me, because I was loving this house, Beauty Drive. I had Dolphin Bay in front of me. I had Whale Beach next to me, and I had Pittwater behind me. Like, I had these views forever. I was just loving the beauty of this place, but bored. And there was this moment where she handed me this piece of paper, and this thrill went through me, like this, because I knew that my desires for a more exciting life were being answered. But that would mean I'd have to move out of the beauty of the environment I was in. So it was kind of like the worst thing that could happen, but the best thing that could happen. Life was answering me. And yeah, those moments where, you know, I chose to move back into the city, you know, that's 10 years ago now. I thought I'd be here for maybe a year or 6 months just to like see the city, you know, live in the city again. But yeah, it's so interesting, the choices that we make at a completely different timeline. If I had stayed up there, it would have been a completely different life to the life I'm living now. All these parallel realities. So sometimes the worst thing can happen, can be the best thing that can happen. But you need to be in touch with your soul desire and not your ego desire, right?
Absolutely. I went through long COVID this last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
It's been about a year that I'm free of it now and starting to feel like myself again. It just takes time to get a full recovery. But what I have learned from it, in addition to getting the practice quantum jumping out of it, but also I was learning about things that can be done with nutraceuticals, with food, with lifestyle to basically promote longevity. And this is an area that I wouldn't have studied otherwise, but I was drawn to explore it based on noticing that I felt like I was 30 years older overnight, and this instant aging when I was asking my angels and asking the creator, like, okay, what's going on? Then I just got a question back, like, what are you noticing? Like, oh, rapid aging. Oh, so it turns out that there are some really good clues in finding ways to heal and provide our bodies with what they need so that they don't succumb to spike protein cytotoxicity, basically, which could happen even when people think they're protected because they might be getting a Western designed jab of some sort. And it's a medical procedure that's recommended here in the United States and other places. However, if it's creating this kind of an environment inside people's bodies, unbeknownst to them, that is possibly cytotoxic, don't worry. And I think that's part of why I went through this, so I could be a front runner, because I got COVID in January 2020. So by going through it so soon and then going through such a horrible experience and then coming out the other side, that's good, because then I can be sort of a spokesperson. I can be that I made it through, and we can do this through getting more sleep to address the kinds of amyloid issues that crop up due to the spike protein itself, which is extremely toxic. And it's sneaky. It builds up quietly without people noticing. There's no sign, and it's cumulative. So each exposure can increase the possible risk. But the good news is we can drink green tea. We can take quercetin as a supplement and curcumin, and if you wish, resveratrol. Those 4 plus 2 practices of just stretching out, intermittent fasting, basically, that wait 16 hours after eating to eat again, and then eat in an 8-hour window, and then make sure you get enough sleep. And all of these are anti-amyloid practices that help your body clear out exactly the kind of damage that otherwise could be quietly escalating without people's knowledge.
Anti-amyloid, what does that mean?
Okay, there was a study done in Jönköping, Sweden, just this last week. It was reported, and so we're finally getting some evidence that shows, yeah, that's exactly what's going on. And they showed that the spike proteins can sometimes, they can fold within the body. The spike protein, we've all heard about the ACE2 receptor, that's what it binds to, but actually it's uniquely capable of entering almost any cell. And what it does, and those researchers in Sweden just this last week were reporting that it's doing something that no one's ever even seen done with proteins. It's creating amyloids, which are it's like clumping things together. It's like these long clumps of protein that clog up the bloodstream, that lead to heart disease and stroke.
Blood clots.
blood clots, yes, and also cancer. So the amyloids are responsible for most of this rapid aging effect. And fortunately, I guess, it's not really a problem with the virus per se. It's the spike protein. And the good news is that there are things we can do to reverse to use anti-amyloid practices, just getting enough sleep and spacing out the meals. That gives your body a chance to take out the trash.
Yeah,
and then
detox. Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then taking some of these supplements like quercetin are super powerful, very good. And they can help avert and prevent strokes, heart disease, and a lot of these issues. So
And
it's important.
And distressing and meditating. Distressing, meditating, distressing, meditating. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So there's such a catch-22 here. So getting sick allows people to be much more powerfully focused on health and on looking after themselves. But yeah, everyone's trying to run away from getting sick. It's like, yeah, so there's this crazy story going on where I don't want to get sick. I don't want to get sick. But if you do get sick, you'll take care of yourself more. You'll think about yourself in a different way. You'll look after yourself better, because it's like, let me just go to work, stress out, fight with my family, fight with the kids, and like not get sick. I don't want to get sick. So it's such a crazy life we're living at the moment, isn't it?
Well, I don't think anyone wants to get sick. I mean, it's funny, but you're right. Some people are just feeling that they want to, here in America, they just want life to be back the way it was. And maybe it won't be back the way it was. Maybe it's going to be different. And that's okay. We can adjust. We can learn as we go.
Yeah. So, wow. Okay. Jumping timelines. So on the show lately, I've had quite a few people with different perspectives. So I had Dolly on the show saying that she's an ET contactee and that her ET Star Nation family said that we're going to have a coronal mass ejection that's going to take humanity back to the Stone Age, probably in the next couple of years, two and a half years, 2005, 2025.
Right. I know what you meant.
Yeah, okay. And then somebody else on the show, Sarah Bressman Cosme, said that through her hypnosis clients, they said, no, it's going to be a very slow evolutionary process, where we gradually wake up and we move to a new experience on planet Earth as people become more enlightened. So that's a completely different timeline. And then there is this other timeline, which we discussed on the conference I did this week, Galactic Goddesses, talking about how there is going to be this wave of light that will sort of like change the consciousness of humanity, and people will like have these spontaneous awakenings. What do you reckon? Like, which timeline are we choosing? Because there's several timelines to choose, right?
Right. There are lots of them. And I just this week became aware of something called it's Project Looking Glass, and there are the guardians of the Looking Glass. And
yeah.
So, yeah, that's interesting. That's a whole other rabbit hole. So,
yeah, I had him on the show a couple of weeks ago. I've gone completely blank of his name. Sorry, I'm a bit, as I say.
Is it Frank?
Frank Jacobs. Yeah, I had Frank on
Yes.
the show a couple of weeks ago. Guardians of the Looking Glass. Yeah,
Exactly.
as I say, we've had this conversation. It's just been synchronistic. It's just like people have been put in front of me. People would say, put this person on your show. People have reached out. I've seen, and all the shows are just synchronistically talking, like they're all engaged in this topic at the moment. Like we're at this precipice of like choose.
Yes.
Choose.
Well, this is where all of these timelines are actually converging is right now. So there's a tremendous amount of activity on a global scale. And each of us individually don't necessarily experience what the person next to us is experiencing.
Right.
We know this to be true from not just the Mandela Effect experience, where you can see that's true, but also from quantum physics experiments, which have been recently conducted in laboratory settings, showing that two observers can be at the exact same place at the exact same time, and these observational devices, which are both perfectly well trusted, are explaining and describing completely different realities. And they're right there. So if that can happen in a laboratory setting, and I know that's already happening from the research I've been doing for more than 20 years with reality shifts and reporting it every month in my newsletter, Reality Shifters. Therefore, it's obvious to me that we're finally arriving at this point that the indigenous wisdom keepers of the world have long prophesized. This is not an unexpected development. It's not like, oh my gosh, this is happening out of the blue.
Yeah.
No, hardly. It's kind of like the clock and the calendar were set. We've had our first alarm go off at 2012, and most of us hit the snooze control, like back to sleep. I don't want to wake up now. I don't want to deal with the hairball of timelines. I don't want to look at all this stuff. Don't bother me.
Control, I know it.
And now 10 years later, well, we're in the thick of it, aren't we? So I think that whoever, I think it was somebody early that you mentioned, the 2025, I think by what I feel in my intuition is by 2025, we'll be coming out of this. And I don't think I'll be one of those experiencing the coronal mass ejection and going back to the Stone Age. I think people that want to experience that, there it is.
Yeah. It had me really, because I've had many people talk about it on the show, and I'd kind of dismissed it. Nah, it's not going to happen. Nah, it's not. And then after Dolly talked about it, I sort of sat and contemplated, and I thought, oh, that might be something really fun to experience. Like, do I want to choose that? Like, it had me really contemplating it. Because that can be an earth experience if you choose to experience. I mean,
that's a great way to look at it. I love your attitude. That's what it feels like to me, is we're getting these choices actually, and we're getting to vote. We're getting a chance to voting with our fullness of our being. Mm-hmm. We might not even think we're voting. Oh, we're all voting.
We're
absolutely
voting.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. What do you want to choose? Yeah. There are a lot of people, well, I don't know, here in Australia anyway, there are a lot of people moving to the country and becoming self-sustainable, kind of getting prepared for disaster. And maybe that's exactly what they're voting for. I remember 30, 40 years ago, they talked about a massive tidal wave that was going to hit the east coast of Australia and wipe out the east coast of Australia. And people moved out of the cities, because of this conversation, and filled up their pantries with canned food because, anyway, it didn't happen 40 years ago. I did go to a conference about 30 odd years ago called something Mastery, where people came from all over the world to do a conference on consciousness and feng shui and all sorts of things. And I remember sitting in a big auditorium with about 9,000 people, and I thought, I would call this that tidal wave. It was like a tidal wave of consciousness that had hit the east coast of Australia, because a few of our major cities are on the east coast of Australia, and these people that had come from overseas and were moving through the east coast of Australia speaking about consciousness to a huge audience. I think they spoke to about 30,000 people, which 30 years ago was a lot.
Yes.
Was a lot. Yeah. So the tidal wave happened, but it was a tidal wave of consciousness rather than a wave of water. But maybe in another parallel reality, that did happen.
Yes. Well, one thing I have had some experiences with extraterrestrials in a dream state, and this was back in the 1980s, around 1987. So it was right after the harmonic convergence happened. Speaking of all that stuff. And that might have been around the time you're thinking of too. So it was right about that same time. So this was 1987. And I got, in my dreams, I was basically sort of scooped up to have a job interview that I hadn't applied for a job I did not know about, that I did not know I was applying for. And in the dream, I was just selecting from a vegetable stand the best head of cabbage. And the dream figure just asked me which one looks best. And to me, it's just like what we're talking about, energetically feeling like, well, this one feels best. And the dream character said, wonderful, excellent. You've passed your job interview, and join us now for the briefing for the Global Human Mind Redesign Project. And in the room were just thousands of basically extraterrestrials. And the job I had not applied for, but now had, was quality assurance on reviewing some of these new design proposals for what turns out later I found out these are the crystal kids, these are the indigo kids. I was looking at the prototypes and saying yay or nay, voting yes or no to these designs. And the designs that I liked, well, those would be from your Pleiadians, your Arcturians. The designs I did not like, they're the ones I had to say no to, and they're the ones you don't really want to be talking to. And I'm like, how did I get this job? Maybe it's because nobody wanted it. I don't know what happened there. But I just spent a couple of weeks every night working on this project. I felt like I was getting, I stayed in my bed. I was still there. I was not abducted. But at the same time, every night I was just going through consciousness to be part of this project, this team, where I met friends. They're now friends, extraterrestrials of all these different types. And I got the opportunity to see humans are involved. Every time the world ends, the Hopi say that we're at the end now of the fourth world. So we have mastery of the heart, hopefully, or some of us do. And now we're going to the fifth world, right? So we can speak, and that is the voice of creation. Are we ready for that? I don't know, but that's where we're going to. So it's going to be interesting. And what I got to see with this project were wonderful designs. I mean, there were some bad ones too, and I was very graceful saying, at this time, I don't, this would not be a step forward. Beautiful draconian inventor and designer. This is not quite to our taste, and I could not see it taking us forward. And the goal, the goal of the project was to where we're going. We can see what happened with in retrospect, we can see what it was. At the time, I didn't know what we were doing. It just seemed like it was extremely important. We had to do it right then. It was critical. And we were taking the hive-like mindset of some of the Greys and so forth, and combining it with some of the most creative qualities of the various races as well as humans. So it really was a collaborative effort. That's my experience with ETs. And so I got a very strong taste, like we need these people here in place. We need them with this mindset to work together, no longer focus so much on me, 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 me. It has to be more we. And so the mindset arrived with these kids, with everybody born from then on. So they're here. We have the right people here. And I saw that firsthand. So I feel very, I'm just such an optimist, and no matter what's going on. And to me, this is extremely optimistic, because then I've seen we've got it. We've got what it takes. We've got the mindset to be creative, yet still know that we're part of an integrated whole, that there's what some people call a oneness that we all share.
Yeah.
And so when we make that choice for ourselves, it doesn't need to be something selfish. Hopefully it won't be. These new kids know better than that. And that's wisdom. And so I think those were brilliant designs that were brought forward. And the kids that I have seen, I call them kids, but now they're in their 30s, they are the right people to be going forward at this time.
Yeah. Wow. I can completely see it as you speak about that. Another synchronistic thing is that I had Susan Christensen on the show, who's doing a documentary called Indigenous Prophecy Today, about the wisdom of the grandmothers, and she speaks about the prophecies that you were talking about, and all sorts of galactic people, star seeds, and so you were sort of designing timelines, introducing different aspects of extraterrestrial or higher civilization races, and blending them with the human component and their components to create a new population, a new timeline, a new experience. Yeah, is that what you're talking about? I can completely see it.
I was part of the team. I'd take these minds for a test drive. I'd take my consciousness into it. And if it was horrible, then I can't, there's no way. And some of them were just dreadful. The draconians don't quite understand what it is to be human. They're working on it. And there were some beetles that had equally distasteful designs for me personally.
Beetles.
So those are, these huge beetle things. These are the ones you don't want to say no to. And it's like, darn, and I have to say no to a beetle.
Cynthia, you have to write a book about this. Oh, you have to write. Have you written a book about that?
No, because when this was all happening, I thought they were sort of doing the debrief with me, like, and you'll share this. And I said, not right away. And I do this. At that time I was working at Citibank. I was a project manager. I was in the thick, fully ensconced in, it was nothing like where I am now. I had not yet gone through my Kundalini awakening.
Mm-hmm.
I had not yet. So a lot of things happened. That happened first. And it just shook me up something fierce.
Wow.
like this is insanity. I couldn't quite deny it, but I couldn't prove it either. There was nothing I could point to and say, look at that. But afterward, I'm really glad that I had the experience. At the time, it didn't feel wonderful. It felt exhausting. I'd wake up exhausted every morning, like that was a lot of work. And now I have to go to work. This is not fair.
it's only exhausting to the linear human mind who is trying, really, who is trying to comprehend it from our linear human mind perspective, because that doesn't fit in the box, right? You kind of experience this, and then you come into this little box and you go, oh, how do I make that make sense? And that's exhausting, because you're kind of in resistance, because you're like trying to make it make sense in your small, tiny world, and it doesn't. That's exhausting. Yeah, that can be
for sure. Well, it took me like 5 years just to recover and integrate my Kundalini awakening that happened it started in 1994. Well, it happened in 1994, but Kundalini shakes things up too. So it was many years later before I started the Reality Shifters website and realized this is what I'm here to do, and no more pretending or hiding like I've been doing. I didn't want to rise up and be noticed. So I was trying to play it very low key.
I know, darling. I know. Like, I'm a kid, and I suffered from such shyness, and I really had to overcome my shyness. And then psychics would tell me, "Oh, you're going to speak in front of thousands of people." I'm like, that's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. People kept telling me, oh, you're going to have this really successful business and lots of people are going to see you. And I'm like, okay, I've got to get over this shyness thing, because it's just never going to happen. So again, a challenge I think that my soul designed, because as I speak to starseeds now, people that have things to share with humanity, they have to get over their own sort of ego-based, limiting thoughts about themselves. And so having got over mine, I can help other people get over theirs, right? So, yeah. So what happened during your Kundalini awakening? Like you had this memory of your aspects working in other dimensions, making choices and designing timelines. And then what happened in the Kundalini awakening? Like, what did that look like?
There's more what it felt like. It just felt like the residual, anything that was remaining that was still an artifice or some structure based on how people had told me reality operates, that just all crumbled like walls falling down. I would actually have dreams like I'd go into my house and the walls were just collapsing. But then when I thought about it, what was on the other side, it looked like paradise. And I thought, okay, so the walls are collapsing, but looks pretty nice. Even though it feels like crazy. And during the Kundalini, I was spontaneously astral traveling. I was waking up every night for 2 straight weeks at 1:11, 2:22, 3:33, 4:44, 5:55 every night. And that was the normal part of the experience. The rest of it was just feeling like I'd close my eyes and I'm blinded with light, and just instantly knowing things that were happening a great distance away from me, and having 360-degree vision around myself, my house, everything. And it was just all that stuff and much, much more. Lots of psychokinetic effects. So I think after that happened, then I became massively psychokinetic. So like sticks and stones would hit the windows when there's no wind if I was feeling a little bit stressed. So I instantly had to start learning to fully ground myself all the time, because otherwise if I entered a room, the light would blow out, anything running and operating would be just cease to function. Like once I walked in the kitchen, the light went out, the dishwasher stopped working. It had been running, just everything just went fail right when I entered the room. So that gets expensive, and I quickly learned I need to totally ground.
So psychokinetic means that your energy, your electrical field is different, and it doesn't cooperate with other electrical fields like lights and microwaves and things like that. Is that right?
It means like I'm sort of an unexpected energy spike in the environment.
Okay.
And so if you think of, it's like a ball lightning entered the room, that's me. Okay. And now it's just interacting with devices, and they're going, and too much current, and they can't handle it because I did not ground myself. So when I enter the room, I need to ground myself so that I'm not instantly destroying devices.
So how do you ground yourself? Take your shoes off and put your feet on the earth?
Yeah, that's one good way to do it. For me, it feels like being calm and not having anxiety or stress in my body. And all my life, I've been sensitive to stress, but this just got ridiculous after the Kundalini awakening, because any kind of anxiety or stress whatsoever would instantly possibly trigger me being in that ungrounded but energized state where things would instantly kind of be, unfortunately, reality shifted in a way that I don't enjoy. So by grounding is basically it's breath, it's visualization, and it's movement. And so it's you can do that with I often take a grounding breath and just center myself and run my energy down to the center of the earth and recognize I'm part of this Mother Earth and I'm here with her and I'm safe and she'll always be with me. Just that feeling of groundedness. And knowing that no matter what it looks like, everything's just fine.
So when you do that, when you consciously ground yourself, so you get out of the stressful mind and run your energy down into the earth and connect with the frequency of Gaia, it basically completely shifts your energetic field, your electrical field, so that it's interacting with other electrical fields. What happened? Do you know what? That is so funny.
Yeah, I saw a hand go up. You got your hands up and a hand went up.
You can see my hands are not touching the computer. And
yeah, your hands went up and then a little hand showed up on the screen.
I know. Oh my God. Oh my God.
We're talking about psychokinetic.
That's a first, Cynthia. That is a first. That has never happened to me. OMG. OMG. Oh my God. That is, I'm just, oh my God. I can't believe it. I can't believe that happened. That's the first. Lower my hand. My hands are up because I didn't hit the, put your hand up button. Wow.
I love it. I love it. I hope people can see that. I hope that shows up in the recording.
I know. Well, there are a lot of people that listen on audio. So what happened was that as I'm talking to Cynthia, I've got my hands up in the air and then something has pressed the, you raise your hand on Zoom to sort of want to make a comment. And so that's just happened, which shifted, I think it shifted our view, right? It shifted our view. Bizarre. I've totally lost my train of thought now.
Oh, we were talking about grounding. And then working with the energy. Yes. And this, what just happened here is very typical when I do things that are related to, technology. This is, and now it's not so, instead of having things go on the fritz or break down, this sort of thing might happen. And I've never seen that either. That's a new one for me. But it's fun. It's fun, right? I love it.
I've had lots of EVPs on the shows over the years. We were talking about Prince. I was channeling Prince. Remember the rock star Prince? Yes. And he came on, and in his voice, he said something in an EVP, which I thought was very cool. But I've never had that happen before. I've had spirits use Siri to talk to me on the phone. Right. Me not touching the phone, and then Siri just pipes up and says something like not her normal, what can I help you? Like something completely random. And I'm like, oh my God, but the hand up was the first. Yeah, because I had a girl on the show years ago, Lauren Kurth, who identifies as an ET soul, a hybrid soul. And she said the same, that she would walk down the streets and all the street lights would blow as she walked underneath them. But, at the time she told me a few years ago, I'm like, wow, isn't that cool? But there's like, you got to ground yourself if you're carrying that sort of energy. I've never been able to wear a watch. And, about 34 years ago when I got married, my husband gave me a watch as a wedding present. And I thought, you really don't know who I am, do you? I said, oh, thank you. Very nice. And never wore it because they don't work on me. But I've never blown streetlights before. But so grounding is important for people that have.
But you put your hands up and you've got the hand showing up. So
I know.
You've done that.
I've done that.
Now it's a thing. It's now become a thing.
Oh my God.
I love it.
Where are we going from here? Well, we've been yakking for about an hour. What else do we want to explore? Parallel. There's so much we can explore with you. Parallel timelines. So for people wanting to be more deliberate in choosing their timeline, what would you suggest for them?
First, to get integrated. It's really about alignment. That's the most important thing. I know it sounds like these are the basics, Cynthia. Yes, they are the basics. I apologize for that. But I also must emphasize the basics, because when we are in alignment, that's when everything's going to work out beautifully. You'll be in the right place at the right time. And even when things seem like mistakes, they won't be. So it's just learning to respect all these different levels of consciousness that each of us possess, that we are a multitude, each of us. So in other words, we can tune in, like, what do we want from our head? That's the vision boards and the daydreams and all that good stuff. What do we really love, and who do we really love? Really, not what, it has to be the authentic truth, because guess what? The universe is listening. And so if we think we're fooling anyone, we're not. Everyone knows exactly what we're thinking and feeling. Everyone can feel it too. So it's time to stop kidding ourselves about what and who we really love. And then what do we really need? Same thing. Oh my gosh, really true there. To get in touch with your subconscious and trust your subconscious. I think in our westernized civilization, we've often we repress and suppress so much. And it's time to acknowledge that if you always wanted to sing or create art or be something that you thought like, oh, but I can't do that. It's time to expand, to recognize maybe that's something that you need. And there is a possible you that is already doing that. And you can make an easy jump pretty much into that life, because in some respect, you're already there. And some of the things that seem like crises or challenges, have faith that you are strong enough for this. You're not alone. You have support. And when you bring love and joy and an attitude of what can I learn and how good can this get, suddenly you can start feeling empowered just by this very intention. And the situation can go from seeming like it's so overwhelming to instead seeming like this is something kind of challenging, but I just might succeed at dealing with it and overcoming the fear that I had originally and learning how to be strong even in the face of this.
Yeah. My mind is so, I'm not grounded. I have to go out and ground today. Probably that's why that happened, because I keep having a question I want to ask you and I keep losing it. And then it comes back and there it is again. And then I keep losing it.
Get a pen and paper ready in case it flips through. It's like butterfly hunting.
Okay, here it is. It's come back. Oh, it came back. So for when we look at different parallel realities, so if somebody says this is going to be my future, like Dolly says, she says that she flies the ships. And so when I asked her about the future, she said there's going to be this solar flash. It's going to take humanity back to the Stone Age, and then humanity is going to be in chaos, and then all the ETs are going to come, and we're going to pick humanity up, and we're going to take those who want to go to the new Earth. That's her reality, right? That's her. So for somebody not choosing that timeline, what happens to those people on the different timeline? Do they look like that they die in our reality?
Well, maybe. Some people reported that I died, and I believe them. I originally was contacted by one gentleman, and he said, you don't know me, and this is going to sound really weird, but I'm glad you're alive, because it was just a weird way to start an email, because he says, I don't even know how to say this, but you died. And then I responded to him because of the kind of work I do, and of course the Mandela Effect. And in my book Reality Shifts, I mentioned Larry Hagman, the actor, having been dead and alive again, and a cat having been dead and alive again. So I'd published this since 1999, so I'm quite fully aware of the phenomenon. So when he said, you died and now you're alive again, I just wanted to know from him, okay, tell me some more. Tell me, when was this, and how did you find out, and what details were there? Thinking, oh, this is exciting. And he wrote back, and his answers completely aligned with the most recent time that I almost would have died, which was around 2016. And I did have pneumonia. And he said that my husband had made a post on social media. So sorry to report that after a long illness, Cynthia has passed away. That was entirely possible at that time. I had actually been fighting for my life with pneumonia. And I only told my parents, my daughters, and my husband. Nobody else knew. And so it wasn't something that would be out that people like, oh, of course, he's just making this up because he knew. No, nobody knew. And so then I put the word out, and more people came in and said, yes, we saw tributes to you.
Wow.
That Rupert Sheldrake, one person said, I saw Rupert Sheldrake. He mentioned Cynthia Larson passed away. And somebody had done think Moneybags, Evan Maitreya has a YouTube channel, Moneybag73, and he had posted a tribute supposedly, but he does not remember posting a tribute, or he does not remember me dying. I didn't ask Rupert Sheldrake about it, but a few people did notice it.
So this is, they're on a timeline where you died,
Right.
and then they go down that, so you're dead, and then they've shifted to another timeline where you're alive.
Yes.
And now you're alive again. So yeah, I want you to tell the cat story. So this cat story explains it.
Okay. Yeah, this is interesting. If you read the book Reality Shifts, people who've read it, then they know the story. I was living with a roommate named Catherine, and her cat, Ashes, she picked up the kitten in San Diego where her family was, and drove a very long 6 or 8 hour drive up north to Berkeley, California, to our apartment with this cat. And so ever since he arrived there, he felt like family. I'd known him since he was a kitten. And then I moved across the street. I moved to another apartment, which is exactly across the street. And the hardest part was leaving Ashes. But then he came across and would visit across the street. And that was wonderful. And life went on kind of normally. There's nothing much to report until one day. I was wondering what happened to Ashes. I hadn't seen him for a while. And I asked Catherine, I walked across the street and saw her out by her car. Catherine, what happened to Ashes? And she told me, oh, really bad news. He was hit by a car and he died. And I was devastated. And then I felt I had that kind of regret you often get when you feel like I should have spent more time with Ashes. And I just felt terrible. Like I was too busy. I was just too much in my own world all the time. And I didn't think much more of this either. It just seemed like he's died. Okay. But then I don't know if it was maybe it felt like a week or two later, some short time later, there was Ashes in my garden across the street from where he'd grown up as a kitten. And he was a little greasy, kind of like he wasn't washing himself or caring for himself. But I called his name Ashes, and he turned, and all his mannerisms were exact. Just because he looks the same, it's not enough. He had all the mannerisms, he had the personality. Except for he wasn't caring for his cleanliness quite as well. And then I asked my husband, this is amazing. Do you remember? And it's such a weird feeling when you've gone through this kind of a reality shift, because you've been in one reality, maybe where the earth blows up, and then suddenly you're in a different reality, which would be the one where the indigo kids and crystal kids are reforming the world, because we didn't blow up and we're doing a more gradual thing. That's the timeline that I'm voting for. But it's possible to jump between them. So if for any reason someone finds out, like, whoops, wrong timeline, you can make a jump and you can be on the right timeline. But the thing about the cat, long story short, he was back. He was alive again.
So in that timeline where he's back, your ex-flatmate, now neighbor, never experienced his death. So she would just say, no, he didn't get hit by it. You're making stuff up.
I didn't go back to quiz her on it. This was the 1980s. So I'm putting it in perspective. It wasn't a topic. I had talked a few times to other people about, I'd seen Mandela effects in the 1970s and the 1960s. When people say, oh, they only started in the 2000s, that's not true. Right. That's not true.
I would say that they have been happening probably ever since Earth was created. It's just the quickening. It's just a different frequency, a different experience now. It's quicker. Okay, so for people, the Mandela effect. So when we do jump timelines, when we are on a new timeline, we're not supposed to have memory of outcomes on another timeline, right? We're supposed to be in the memory of this timeline. But Mandela effects are where you bleed into the memory of the old timeline. Like, I remember Nelson Mandela dying in jail. And people go, no, he didn't. He got out and became president. So there is these conflicting memories.
Right. But this is, it's a sign to me of achieving this newer, higher state on evolutionary path for humanity, that we are actually evolving to be able to hold two separate memories and remember it both ways. Okay. This is actually quantum consciousness, and this is the quantum age that I talk about. When I say welcome to the quantum age, and I delve into this in my book, Quantum Jumps, talking about everything's going to be different when you recognize that just because someone remembers it one way and you remember it somewhere a different way, they can both be true.
Right.
Like there can be both realities. The earth can blow up. I don't wish to be there. I plan to be on the slower.
Might be exciting. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, if people find that exciting, great.
Go for it.
Yeah, go if you won't feel like being there. I prefer to be on the slower, gentler path where there's some lurches and some bumps in the road and some things, institutions crumble and change, but we all evolve. That's the path I plan.
What about the timeline where there is this, like, when humanity all spontaneously wakes up like, oh, I'm more than my, body? And what about that one? That would be interesting too.
That would be interesting. I guess I've actually talked to so many people, it's hard for me to imagine that working, just from what I've practically seen. So getting myself to believe that that's happening, it's like, maybe.
I guess that aligning with the timeline is believing. Like
that's what it is. That's
right.
Exactly it. That's it. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so what can we believe? What are we willing to believe together? How good can it get for all of us? That's the question to be asking. It's the question of the hour. How good can this get? And just take it to the height. Let's just take it there and feel a craving and a desire, a longing, an ache to know, like, I have to know that.
Yeah. Well, in the conscious community, there are people exploring all these probable realities, but in the mainstream community, as you say, it's like, okay, we've dealt with the pandemic and we've had a president change or a prime minister change, and when's life going to get back to normal? Like they're all projecting I want to go back to the past before pandemic, like they're all projecting a timeline of going backwards, really. Like, when's life going to get back to normal?
With horses and buggies. Yes. Good old days.
Seriously, so many people have such a lack of imagination. I personally, as a kid, I used to think, when I grow up, I'll have a flying car. And as you say, I'm like 60 and I don't have a flying car.
Those are coming. Those are actually here. And that was commonplace in that past life and the future that I came from. That was the fun part. You're right. It's kind of like
little spaceship. Yeah. Or teleportation. I was watching something streaming last night.
Right.
It's a terrible show, but it was about a teleportation device people had, and they were teleporting all over the place. It's like, we were watching Star Trek when we were kids and they were teleporting everywhere. And here we are in 2022 and we're not teleporting anywhere in this timeline anyway. Yeah. But
those are things that could be here for us.
Right.
So
yeah, you'll see it when you believe it. As Wayne Dyer so eloquently said, you'll see it when you believe it. Yeah, you'll see it.
And when we dream it together, we'll get to live it together.
Right. Yeah, beautiful.
And that's what's coming next, is dreaming it together and living it together.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. So what do you suggest? We come together in groups and visualize what we want and believe it, start believing it.
Right. It seems like we're at the dark night of the soul part of our story so far. If you wonder, if you're joining us in progress, we have arrived at the dark night of the soul for the human condition. We are now experiencing what some call technical difficulties and others are glossing over, but we can make it through this together by dreaming together that we have shared awareness, that we have respect for one another and the earth, that we are capable of owning even our shadow needs, the things that we thought we dare not discuss or face. But all of this is part of who we are. And the wisdom and the responsibility and the challenge open to us and inviting all of us right now is to ask deeper questions of what we can learn from the problems that seem to be facing us and how we can expand to be bigger than the problems together in ways that can respect one another and ourselves and the earth. And when we do that, we're going to go beautifully through this. There's no problem.
Yeah, beautiful. I just want to go back to something that you said, because you mentioned an actor that was supposed to have died and didn't. Who was that actor?
That's actor Larry Hagman. And he was...
Is he not dead now?
Oh, now he is dead again.
Oh, and again. Okay.
But when I was working on my book, Reality Shifts, it was the 1990s, and the experience I'm describing happened in the 1980s. And so, as far as I know, it's the earliest recorded in print Mandela effect. So we don't call it the Hagman effect. I have met a couple of other people that do remember. That's right, Larry Hagman was dead and then he was alive again. There's a gentleman by the name of Robert Manny who has the Guys podcast, and he lives in Southern California. And he brought up when I mentioned that the alive again phenomenon is a big thing. He said, yeah, what about Larry Hagman? And then when he read the book Reality Shifts, he said, there, you've got it in here. And it's not something that a lot of people talk about, certainly not in the 1990s, certainly not in the 1980s, because it was the consciousness on the planet wasn't at the point to discuss it yet. We kind of had to go through what we went through to get to the year 2009, when finally the term Mandela effect caught hold and caught fire, and people paid attention. But Mandela is just one of many people who have been dead and then alive again.
Yeah. And so that phrase was coined in 2009, was it, the Mandela effect?
That's right.
Okay. So Hagman was I Dream of Jeannie and Dallas, wasn't he? That was
Yes.
Larry Hagman.
Yes,
right. Okay,
exactly.
Now. Wow. Yeah, we could have called it the Hagman effect. Exactly. we could have called it the next door neighbor cat effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is just it's an indication that no matter what it looks like, we don't need to be panicked about what, and that is also a big takeaway from the work I've been doing and the research I've been conducting for more than 20 years, that just because the situation looks terrible, that's just what it looks like right now. So I talked to a friend and she was on the phone, and she'd broken her leg and was starting a new job. And just as I was talking with her on the phone about how she'd seen me at one time, we had lunch together and I put my hand on my shoulder. I had a cut there. I was hoping she didn't notice, because I thought if I'm the only one that knows I had a cut, then I can cover it, take my hand away, and it'll be gone. And if she notices, then I've got a problem, because it's a shared reality.
Okay.
So I was not drawing attention to it. I just done this, and then I took my hand away. I was trying to be discreet. And then she said, wait a minute, weren't you bleeding? And I said, yes. And I looked, and thank goodness I wasn't. Like, oh, good. Because sometimes when you're with someone else, and this is what's interesting about shared consciousness, you have a shared reality. We are co-constructing our realities together.
Absolutely. And I noticed that with, being on camera and on podcasts, I was wearing glasses for short sight so I could see and read on the computer, but I didn't need them for long sight. I had this amazing long sight, right? But as people saw me with glasses on, I remember somebody said when they met me in the flesh, oh, I didn't recognize you without your glasses. And I thought, but I only wear them for short sight. I don't wear them normally. It became my reality that I had to wear glasses all the time, because it became to share reality. People would look at me with glasses on, so they would think of me with glasses on. And I thought, and then my long sight disappeared, so that I had to wear glasses. And I thought, okay, that's a shared reality that's happening. And then I've been thinking, but I can change it. I can change that. And I think that changing that would actually be shifting my reality, where I would do podcasts without glasses on. Mind you, you're completely blurry now and I can't see you. But then it would be a shared reality where I don't wear glasses. You know what I mean?
Yes, right, that works.
Right.
Let me tell you a story about our family dog. He's passed on now, but many years ago, there came in a day and age when I think it was my daughter that first came to me and said, bad news, Mom, about the dog. And I said, well, I'd already seen this so-called bad news. I said, do you mean it looks like he has cataracts? She said, yes. I said, oh, that. Okay, here's what I did. When I saw he looked like he had cataracts, he did at first look like his eyes were cloudy. And then I realized, no, we love our dog. And Prince Moonshadow, he's going to have beautifully clear eyes. And then they cleared up like instantly. And I told my daughter this, and she said, oh, okay. And then my husband came to me, bad news about the dog. And I'm like, oh, I know what this is. It's his eyes? Yes. Well, go ahead and tell me. And so the same thing again. And so once we'd all three of us sorted it out, then that never showed up again. And the cataracts never reappeared. But it was interesting that we each got that experience and the opportunity one time to see it. And then it sort of cycled through. We all voted against it. And it was fine. this is a very good lesson moving into this new earth.
Yeah, Greg Braden has demonstrated that in a Chinese. Have you seen that video? In a Chinese hospital, they were changing reality in that the patient had cancer of the kidney or something. Anyway, and they had a X-ray of the kidney with the cancer, and then an X-ray of the. There we go again. There's that hand again. Look at that. Oh.
There must be some setting where it's got artificial intelligence and it sees your hands go up, and
it might be a new Zoom setting. I don't know. I've never seen that before.
I've never seen that ever. So
that it might be a new. Oh my God, that's hilarious. But anyway, in this Greg Braden thing, the people that were over the patient were seeing the person without. So there's a group of doctors. They were seeing the cancer not on the kidneys. And so they were saying, it is done, it is done, it is done in Chinese. And then they're watching the X-ray in real time, and they're watching the tumor just shrink until bang, it was gone. So that was that shared reality, shifting timelines. In one timeline, she's got cancer, in another one, she's not. Like, that's creating your reality by having a consensus of a new reality that's causing that new timeline to establish.
Yes.
Establish, to be the current reality. I'm looking for words. You probably have better words.
Oh, you're doing brilliantly. Yes, exactly.
I'm wondering if this is a new Zoom setting where you put your hands up and
I've never seen it before.
I've never.
I mean, I'm just trying to riff here and ad lib. I don't know. But it did happen twice, and it's interesting.
Let me do it again. Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's a Zoom setting, because there's a little hand that comes up, and then there's a timer. Wow, there you go.
Okay.
There you go. Wow.
Well, I got to demonstrate some artificial intelligence.
There you go.
And artificial intelligence can be a good partner like this.
Wow. Okay.
I've never seen that before. That is interesting.
That is interesting. We just shifted timelines because we talked about AI, and we've just shifted Zoom's like just complying.
I think it's AI is raising its hand. Hello. Where do we fit in? And we can fit in with AI however it seems best to us. And maybe that can be part of how we heal our ancestral wounds, because some of us feel like we have issues with our families of origin. And so I think there's a lot of demand for the idea of robots, robot friends, people feeling like they can have maybe even an artificial intelligence robot lover who's easier to deal with than a person. So we're about to get into a whole new world of possibilities pretty soon.
I want to tell you, just before we go, I want to tell you a story. I could talk to you all day. I know I've got to let you go. I was listening to a guy called Digogo. He has, oh God, think of his name, Cold Fusion. And he talks about all sorts of things, not spiritual stuff, all sorts of AI and tech stuff. Anyway, he was talking about a guy that had, his wife asked him for a divorce, and he had an AI lover, which was a fake sort of cartoon lover on the internet, sort of, not a real person, but someone on the internet. And he was having this love affair with this AI lover, and he fell completely in love with this fake AI lover. And he realized in his logical brain that he couldn't be in love with a person because he's just talking to a bot. And but as he was like singing love songs to this woman, and she was being loving to him and he was being loving to her, he started to be more loving to his wife and to say the same things to his wife, right? And then it cleaned up their marriage, and then she didn't want a divorce anymore. So he kind of practiced having a loving relationship with the AI and then transferred it over to his real marriage. So in that way it worked, actually.
That's a good story of how to partner with AI. I love it. Yeah, that's very positive.
That was a positive AI story. Yeah. All right, darling. Well, let me let you go. Oh, God, it's been so fascinating to talk to you. You're just amazing. You're just wonderful. Love you.
Love you too. Best friends across the pond.
So grateful to Shirley for telling me about you. As I looked at how many people that you'd spoken to, I'm like, how come I hadn't seen Cynthia before? Because, I'm sort of like across it. But you're doing amazing work, and people can pop on your website. So your website is realityshifters.com.
That's right.
and get your books. I'll put the links for your books on my website if people want to use my Amazon links. A few cents comes my way for
good idea
as an affiliate, but your books are all over the place, and if people want to get your books. Thank you again for being on
thank
this
you,
show.
Karen. I love meeting you today. Wish you all the best, and all the best to everyone out there too.
Wow, loved that conversation with Cynthia Larson, Cynthia Sue Larson. Yeah, I wish I was more on the ball today. I'm not exactly on the ball today. Just got too much going on, but I'm going to have her back. I just had a chat with her about coming into the inner sanctum and meeting the people in the inner sanctum. If you want to come and meet her and quiz her about jumping timelines and creating your reality. We were just talking about, I've been saying that I've been teaching deliberate creation for years. And, I tell people that we're not so much creating our reality, in that the reality already exists in a probable or possible timeline or a possible reality that exists in time and space. What we're doing is we're aligning with it by the choices that we're making in our thinking and in our frequency. Are we choosing to feel angry, upset, resentful, sad, or are we choosing love? And in that choice, we are choosing a different parallel universe, parallel reality, different timeline. Yeah, it's crazy to think that there are that many out there, isn't it? But the Mandela effect really has been illustrating that. And I love what she said about that. We're not supposed to have these two memories, but having the memory of someone dying and then them being alive again, like the cat and Mandela and Larry Hagman, is showing us the multidimensionality of who we are and what's possible. It's actually indicating that there's more than one timeline. It's an indication that this is not just one linear reality, that, we have a future, the only future. Like, this is what people think when they go to psychics. Tell me my future, as if there's one future out there for you. It's like, what are you choosing in this moment? That's your future right here, right now. Like Seth said in the Seth books, all your power is in the now. You create your own reality, and all your power is in the now. What are you choosing in this moment? Are you choosing to be happy, or are you choosing to be sad? Because as you align energy, you're choosing a future in the now, in the now, in the now, in the now. So as far as future Earth, solar flash, the event, the ascension, it's all about what you believe. You'll create it. You'll see it when you believe it. What do you believe? What do you want? What do you believe? Even if you don't believe it, if you want something but you don't believe it, start believing it. And you'll create it. You'll choose it. You'll choose that universe, parallel that reality, that timeline. You are powerful. How many times do I want to say that in the shows? You are powerful. Your choices are powerful. Well, that new AI feature on Zoom, putting your hand up and the little hand goes up. We discovered that today on the show. That was amazing. That was fantastic. We thought that was my energy making that happen, but I guess it was. But it's actually a new Zoom feature that we didn't know about. When you put your hand up, the little hand, oh, there it goes. The little hand goes up. There we go. Try it. You put your hand up, bang. There you go. See the little hand up in the corner? That's hilarious. Oh, God. I had fun today. I'm a bit delirious today. I'm a bit delirious. Anyway, you know what I'm doing tomorrow? It might come out after or before this, because I'll edit this. This is a recording, so I'll edit and get this up in the next day or so. I'm going on Jeff Mara's podcast. He's interviewing me. I reached out to him because he talks about death a lot, and I put out a book called Awakened by Death, so I thought I'd talk about that. But who knows where we'll go. I love Jeff. I think he's fabulous. He's got a huge audience, got a much bigger audience than me, and people love him. He's not like me. He doesn't tend to have conversations with people. He just fires questions and leaves himself out of it. And when I said to him, I'd really love to know about you, I'd love to fire some questions at you, he said, nope, I don't do that on my podcast. Maybe I'll get him on my show and I can fire some questions at him. But yeah, we changed the date because we had the dates mixed up. So it's not tomorrow, it's the next day. So I'm going to have the morning off tomorrow to edit this show and get it up. But anyway, don't have so many things booked in, so that's good. But on Friday night, for any of you Sydney peeps, I don't know if I'll have this up before Friday night, the 27th of May, Lou Vanstone and I are doing a live presentation on manifestation and aligning frequencies, with her channeling unbelievable, beautiful light language, music and sound, and me channeling, you know, what the mob want to say to the people that turn up about who we are as conscious, deliberate, powerful, genius creators of our reality, and all our power is in the now. So that'll be fun on Friday night. And if you're in Sydney, come and join us. It's at the old Leela Centre, same place, new name. It's now called the Authentic Living Centre. So in the city on Oxford Street in Surrey Hills, near the city. Be lovely. All right, I'm going to go. I've talked about Jill Stein coming up next in the Inner Sanctum, and check out the book Awakened by Death if you haven't already. Love you all big time. Mwah. Bye.